Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for a brand new video here on the channel, or should I say premiere, because this is going up on Thursday the 2nd of December to kick off my 30 days of top 10, so leading all the way up to the final day of the year. You're going to be getting a top 10 every single day, purely because that's going to round out my top 10 playlist quite nicely. So we have 100 top 10s, well 99 at least, because then on New Year's Day, the 1st of January, I'm going to conclude top 10s in general with the top 10s. I know that's going to be a final conclusion, but that's 30 days away, so I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Top 10s every single day, that's a mean thing to celebrate, and it's why I'm kicking off such a momentous occasion with this premiere. But also, because this is happening over the month of December, what December is also known as is the season to be jolly. This is Christmas season, people. It's time to get holly and jolly, folks, as if you celebrate this sort of thing. I know I do, excessively, in fact. You're going to see more of that later. But for now, we're going to be talking about holidays. Christmas in itself is a holiday, but not the only holiday. And there are some holidays from all over the globe that are represented through Skylanders, whether that's figurines, through art, through maybe even Skylanders Academy episodes. We're going to be looking at all aspects of the Skylanders franchise to see where Skylanders represents holidays and where it's done best. The better it's done, the higher on the list the thing representing holiday will be. Duh, that's how top 10s work. So yes, I cannot wait to look further into holidays represented through the Skylanders franchise. Without further ado, let's get to it once the intro has played itself out, mind you. For number 10, I have an interesting choice for an interesting holiday. Raise your hand if you like ice cream. I know I do. In fact, a lot of people love ice cream, which is no doubt why they made a national holiday around it in the first place. That's right, National Ice Cream Day is an official thing, and I feel as though there's a Skylander that correlates with it very well. We're talking about Sunday Slobbertooth for Alter Ego from Skylanders Lost Islands. A very impressive looking one at that. Instead of Slobbertooth's regular old turtle shell, he instead has an ice cream, a cone, and a literal cherry on top. So his design is just really cool. It makes me really hungry, but I admire the attention to detail, the creativity that went into changing Slobbertooth into this Sunday for National Ice Cream Day. Like I say, whether the correlation was pure coincidence or whether it was intentional, I don't really care, because regardless, it's a really awesome holiday variant that I bet nobody even knew was a holiday variant, or should I say holiday rep more so than anything. It isn't, of course, a official figurine variant, but it is an alter ego in Skylanders Lost Islands, which therefore qualifies it for this list. Now, number 9, I have Tough Luck. With her, she's incredibly green with 4-leafed clovers all over her, and she's a cat, so being decked out in green, having a rather luck-based creature, you know, creature associated with luck ever since Egyptian times, where they literally worship cats for their good luck, or at least their superstitions behind it, you could put it. But regardless on whether cats are or are not lucky, what is lucky about Tough Luck is that I didn't forget about her culture this time around, the fact that she is Irish accent and all. And so, why would culture contribute towards a video talking about holiday representations in Skylanders? Well, there is an entire holiday dedicated to St. Patrick and his whole Irishness, where people will traditionally deck themselves up in leprechaun-based gear, go out in green 4-leafed clovers and all that, and so naturally, St. Patrick's Day being a holiday is what makes Tough Luck as an extension of that entire culture of representation of the holiday as well. Hence why she's an item list, mind you. For number 8, I have a rather interesting choice, since it's not a Lost Islands alter ego, nor a Skylanders character which we've looked at already. Instead, it's an episode of Skylanders Academy of all things. This episode is called Thanks Taken's Day for the Memories, and so that, the title in and of itself, is a pretty self-explanatory reason as to why it's found itself onto this list. It's the world of Skylanders equivalent to Thanksgiving, where instead of being grateful of everything we got in the past year, instead the villains of Skylanders are grateful of everything they took from others in the past year. Both holidays involve a feast of some sorts, as well as the opportunity to come together as a community or a family, and for Skylanders, for example, get the chance to go home, see their families, and take a well-earned rest as the villains are taking the day off to celebrate their own holiday. So there's no longer any evil left in Skylanders for them to fight. During this time, Spyro and Stealth remain behind at the academy due to them not having families to return to, unlike the other Skylanders. Stealth wants to spend this time training to reach her ultimate goal of being the greatest ninja ever. Spyro, however, wants to use this time to explore the vault in the academy and learn more about his ancestors. He soon gets himself and Stealth locked in the vault, however. This is where the true heart of the episode comes into play and why it's on this list in the first place. The heart of Thanksgiving is bringing people together, and that's what this episode does for Spyro and Stealth's relationship. Due to being locked in together, they bond, resulting in very heartwarming character building. It puts their chemistry in the spotlight and truly allows you to connect with and sympathise with these characters. Plus, seeing a creative spin on the holiday is always welcome, hence why it's here on the list, mind you. For number 7, there is Jolly Bumble Blast, the very first Christmas variant we ever got. And let's just say the colours here are sharp and contrasting. We have greens, reds, whites and browns, which all just look so magnificent in juxtaposition with one another. It's a really standout figurine just due to the constant colour contrasts. But on top of all that, there's a great attention to detail. For B, rather than being yellow and black, is instead red and white to look almost like a candy cane, a very traditional candy consumed around Christmas time. So naturally, Jolly Bumble Blast does have its Christmas really crammed into it. It's a fine celebration of a holiday with the traditional Christmas colours, green and red especially. And the fact that the figurine itself is a welcomed great addition because of the colour contrast we alluded to earlier. But ultimately, this is the variant that started off the Christmas traditions, and it's easy to see why they continued with it for years to come, after how successful this variant was to kick it all off with. I just love how this variant looks, simply put, which is why not only is it a great rep for Christmas with the candy cane bumblebee and all that, but it's just a fun figurine overall. Christmas time is meant to be fun. This is fun. I think I've said fun far too many times, so do not take a shot for every single time I said fun. But now I've clearly explained why Jolly Bumble Blast is on the list well enough for number 7, so let's move on to number 6 without further ado, which is gonna be our only ever Valentine's variant released, Love Potion Fizzy Frenzy Pop Fizz. Now there was Heartbreaker Bookshot, but he got cancelled after looking a little too demonic, especially without any pupils and for red and pink colour palette. It would have looked awesome and I'd love that to have been released, but instead we're left with just this variant, which certainly is sufficient enough. The different shades of pink are very contrasting and it's very suitable for the figurine. Pop Fizz looks great in pink. But it's not just the fact that the figurine looks great, but also it's just very traditional Valentine's colours, which is what makes it such a fine representation of a holiday, because Valentine's is all about love and relationships, and so naturally having those pinks, which is a fine representation of the heart, where love is perceived to come from, and ultimately that's what makes this just such a love Potion Fizzy Frenzy Pop Fizz indeed, for key emphasis on love, mind you. So there's number 6 on the list right now. For number 5, I have a figurine representing Halloween that comes not even from an in-game variant. We're talking about Halloween Fright Rider, the chase variant from the free-to-play promotion. Now what makes this a better representation of Halloween than for actual in-game variant Skylanders like Frightful Fiesta or Candy Coated Chopscotch is his colour palette. He's completely orange and black. Black being a fine representation of night and the darkness found in night. That's when all of these spooky creatures are summoned. That's when trick-or-treating commences. It's just natural for Halloween aesthetics to take place during the night. That's when candle lights inside of pumpkins are brought about. That's when just Halloween is set. That's when it truly feels like the holiday is being celebrated, not during the day, but during the night of October 31st. Then there's also the pumpkins, which I alluded to earlier, which are of course orange in their own right. You can see an orange light brought about through them when you put candles inside, you carve them, and it's just a big icon of Halloween. And so you have that orange pumpkin from the figurine, you have the blacks of night. The two colours contrast each other so sharply to make the figurine look awesome in the first place. But on top of that, these are just the two most recognisable and most iconic colours of Halloween in the first place. So seeing them both used in such sharp contrast for this chase variant is what makes it as good a representation of Halloween as it is. Hence why Halloween Fright Rider is number 5 on the list, and it's very on the nose too that this is a Halloween variant. That's literally what was referred to as the Halloween Fright Rider. Now, Jolly Bumbleblaster might have been the first Christmas variant, but in my opinion, he isn't the best, because that goes to Winterfest Lobstar. I didn't say I had to limit this list for one holiday only in each slot. We could use the same holiday multiple times with Skylanders representing it, and in Christmas's case it's getting a second one because it's just such a huge holiday, very close to my heart personally. I've celebrated it excessively for years. I mean, you can tell from my house just how much we love Christmas, given how decked out it is in lights and decorations and all that. But enough about my house, let's get back to the figurine at hand, which is Winterfest Lobstar and its gloriousness. First of all, the red and the white have a really sharp contrast, and it makes Lobstar look just like St. Nicholas, aka Santa Claus himself. The white down below almost looks like a beard, and then it also has little green and red dots, which look like candies, so it's almost kind of like a cream and candy. And Christmas being a fun time and a time filled with candy makes it just a very appropriate representation of a holiday through this figurine in and of itself. And not to mention, what do you put on the top of the Christmas tree? A star? Well, this guy is lobbing them all over the place. It's literally part of the name, Lobstar. Plus, lobster is a bit of a feast in and of itself, and at Christmas, boy, do you get a feast from just how magnificent the food is. So yes, this guy not only looks cooler than Jolly Bumbleblaster, but he also has even greater representations of Christmas time through the fact that he is star-shaped, just as what you'd put on top of a tree, mind you, and he has candy scattered all over him, as cherry on top of a cake, you could put it. Number 3 now is going to go to the greatest Easter representation in the Skylanders franchise, and that has to go to the Easter Earth Bunny trap, purely because, well, the Easter Bunny is the mascot of this holiday, so to say, and the bunny trap, well, it's a fucking bunny. It's quite self-explanatory as to why it's such a great representation of the holiday. The colours too are awesome. You have whites and pinks, which you traditionally see on Easter eggs. It's a very nice Easter egg pattern that kind of represents that aesthetic. So the Earth Trap is just a fine representation of the Easter holiday through its replication of the mascot, the aesthetics and the colours having that sharp contrast to make the trap just stand out and look cool, and on top of that it's just got those intricate details to perfectly represent Easter in and of itself, hence why number 3 on the list and all that. So for number 2, I have Firecracker. Now I'm using his jaded one rather than for regular, since it looks that much cooler, mind you, but it represents the same exact thing, that being the Chinese New Year, a huge festival involving fireworks and parade dragons. That's exactly what Firecracker is. He's a bit of a wild side, and that personality just really brings the character to life. You can see that through the figurine because he's got his tongue sticking out, so he's definitely a bit of a wild side from figurine too. It's very significantly detailed. You have a rather Chinese stylized armor, you could go as far to say. or at least it feels that way. But China is just scattered all over this character, so it's a fine representation of the culture, but better yet, the holiday, because he in and of itself is a parade dragon taken directly from those festivals, that holiday. So, man, this guy looks cool from a design standpoint, and it's even cooler how he represents a real culture and a real life holiday, and his moveset even tailors itself towards that. You not only see a parade dragon with traditional Chinese music playing as you bring it out and reap destruction amongst all the enemies in front of you, that is. But on top of that, you can also create fireworks with his bottom half. He jumps around too with a lot of energy and excitement, again bringing out that wild side. And ultimately, he's just a really great representation of the Chinese New Year, a fine holiday indeed. And so naturally, that's why he's as high as number 2, but that still doesn't mean he can beat out over Frightful Fiesta. Now, you'd think this figurine makes for a fine Halloween representation, but we've had Halloween on this list once already, and we're not going to be having it again. Yes, Frightful can be found in the name, and during Halloween, that's when all things frightful service, such as skeletons, which is what Frightful Fiesta is in the first place. Plus, he's wearing black and white, a reflection of the colours seen during the darkness of the night, when trick-or-treating is commenced by kids. But all that pales in comparison to just how well he represents the Mexican holiday Dias de los Muertos. Pixar's Coco also used this holiday as its setting, taking full advantage of Mexican culture to educate the world about this incredible culture, mind you. And Mexico itself is a very warm and bright country, hence why the colour orange is brought out a lot, and you can see that colour a lot through their culture. But there's also even more than that during Dias de los Muertos for Day of the Dead, where orange petals will guide the dead to their families or friends during their visit to the world of the living. Well, Frightful Fiesta is orange, hence why I've brought out this variant rather than a regular one, and that's orange, same as those petals, mind you. And on top of that, he's wearing Mexican clothes, his boots even shake to the beat of traditional Mexican mariachis, mind you. It's just such a fine Mexican aesthetic. In fact, it feels as though it was pulled straight from that holiday, making him the greatest representation of a real-life holiday in the entirety of the Skylanders franchise. Hey everyone, so for conclusion of this premiere is going to include, of course, a massive shout out to my Blazing Knights and Scorching Dragons up in the top right hand corner as always, but for now you get me doing something that I wouldn't usually do, in the fact that I am going to be unboxing a chase variant. You can see it right now, it's metallic Wrecking Ball popping his head out ever so slightly for the end of this here premiere. Now the main reason why I'm unboxing this chase variant, and like I usually do, is because the packaging is already pretty destroyed and ravaged as is. There's tape, there's just marks like this one up here where it's just been completely scraped away, so the condition isn't really worth being kept pristine. Plus I don't even like Wrecking Ball that much in the first place, so why should I even bother holding on to the package as is, right? So without further ado, let's get into this. It's going to be very refreshing to open up a Giants character for once. In fact, the only thing holding this onto the back, right here, the back card I should say, was that very tape I referred to earlier. As you can tell, I've just kind of flipped it open, and we can even see the back, which means that we have the classic 1, 2, 3 as demonstrated by Series 2 Trigger Happy. We have other Magic Skylanders down here, and of course T-Rex. This kind of promoting stuff that no longer exists, like Skylanders Universe for online website. Who remembers that? I know I do, because I technically grew up with it since I played Skylanders since the very beginning. Anyway, that was the manual that we always chuck away, enough of the light gleaming off of it. So there's Wrecking Ball, Wreck and Roll. Can't really see that too well, that is how camera focusing works. Anyway, I don't think I ever had the card or the sticker for Series 2 Wrecking Ball, so it's going to be nice to have those for the first time ever. So there's his card and sticker, looking very, very cool. Now let's toss those to the side so we can get to the Astrology stance. The purple metallic Wrecking Ball inside, which, to be honest, like, this is actually a really cool looking chase variant. Inside the packaging really doesn't do it justice because it gleams, it has a really sharp contrast and distinctive shade of purple. And just in general, I might not like this character, but I do love this chase variant. Top 10 things you never thought Ignite the Fire would say. I like Wrecking Ball, or at least a version of him. I like him so much, in fact, that I just about dropped him right there. So before I wind up somehow accidentally splitting this figurine in two with just my own raw stupidity, how about we cut to my final, usual outro voiceover, mind you. So yes, let's get to that right now. That all being said and done, this video is coming to an end, but before that happens, I first want to thank all my Blazing Knights and Scorching Dragons whose support allow me to continue pumping out quality videos like this one. Without them, this all wouldn't be possible. Therefore, I genuinely appreciate every last one of you from the bottom of my heart. If you enjoyed this video, I have others you can watch by clicking on screen now, and you can even subscribe by pressing the button on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one, but until that moment arises, peace!